So in this video we're gonna add the functionality of game over. So as you can see, we can play this game, so as long as the ball doesn't touch in the bottom, we're not gonna lose. But if I let it touch the bottom, it's gonna be game over. Game development, game over. This is the fifth step of the 10 of the game dev canvas tutorial. You can find the source code as you should look after completing this lesson at the game canvas workshop lesson.5 at HTML. And you can click here and it's gonna send you to this GitHub repository, so you can check out the code here, okay, or just follow along. It's fun to watch the ball bouncing off. So pretty much this is what we have up to this point. So I already have it open here, our code in VS Code. So I'm just gonna pretty much right click and then open with live server. So this is pretty much what we have. So this is pretty much what we have so far. So we have the ball bouncing back and bouncing off, and we can move the paddle from right to left, left to right, so we can do it very fast. Okay, so now but we're gonna add the game over. So it's fun to watch the ball bouncing off the walls and be able to move the paddle around, but other than that the game does nothing and doesn't have any progression or end goal. It would be good from the gameplay point of view to be able to lose. The logic behind losing and break out is simple. If you miss the ball with the paddle and let it reach the bottom edge of the screen, then it's game over. Now, implementing game over. Let's try to implement game over in our game. Here is the piece of code from the third lesson where we made the ball bounce off the walls. And let me see, they're talking about this one. So we're gonna close the HTML file, we're gonna open the JavaScript, and we are having the function draw, and they have here this if, and then we have the variables x and dx. So we have this one, x and dx. Okay, so this is the code here. Instead of, okay, so we have these four variables, x and dx, and then y and dy, and pretty much we are represented here from x and dx and then y and dy. So it's gonna be this whole block of two if statement declarations. Okay, so instead of allowing the ball to bounce off all four walls, let's only allow three now, left, up, and right. Hitting the bottom wall will end the game. We'll edit the second if block, we'll edit the second if block so that it's if else block that will trigger our game over state upon the ball colliding with the bottom edge of the canvas. For now we'll keep it simple, showing an alert message and restarting the game by reloading the page. First, replace where you initially called set interval. Okay, so we are gonna go below and we have the set interval, and then we're calling the function draw and we're passing 10 milliseconds. So with const interval. So okay, so we're gonna pretty much get rid of this, and we're gonna have this statement declaration, this constant statement declaration set. Say we're gonna name it interval. Okay, so we're gonna name it interval, and we're gonna set it to set interval, and we are gonna pass in now the function draw as well as 10 milliseconds, and finally end this statement with a semicolon. And let me see, what do we have here? So what is the one? It's already here. Okay, so yeah, nothing is changing so far, but you can still keep moving the paddle from left to right, left to right, left to right, right to left. Okay, so then replace the second if statement with the following. Okay, so let me see, then replace the second if statement. So we are just gonna deal with the y axis. Let me see, then replace the second if statement with the following. Okay, so they're talking about if statement. Okay, so this is the second if statement, so we're just gonna pretty much get rid of it, and it's gonna be if. And now we're gonna have the variable y as well as the variable dy. So we're gonna add it, so y and dy, and the sum of those variables, it has to be less than the ball radius. Okay, if the sum of the variables y and dy is less than the ball radius, then we're gonna do something, and that something is we're gonna set the dy and we're gonna set it to negative dy. So ended up with a semicolon here. Okay, then we're gonna have else if. Okay, so we're gonna have the else if, and then we're gonna pass in the variables again, y and dy. So it's gonna be y and dy, like that. Okay, so if the sum of y and dy is greater than canvas dot height minus the ball radius, then we're gonna do something. So we open curly braces and we're gonna issue an alert, and then we're gonna have inside of the parentheses, inside of the double quotes, we're gonna have game over or game over, and ended up with a semicolon. And now we're gonna have in document that location, so document that location, and now we're gonna have in that reload. So pretty much it's a method that you can read here, method that reload, and inside of the parentheses where we're not gonna pass anything, but we're gonna have this so far, and ended up with a semicolon. And now we're gonna have clear interval, so we're gonna have in the clear interval, and we're gonna open parentheses and we're gonna pass in the interval. So we're gonna pass in the interval and ended up with a semicolon, and this interval comes from here, from this constant statement declaration. Let's save it. So everything is fine up to this point and nothing has changed here so far, so nothing has, oops, yeah, game over. So let me refresh it. So let me see if I type here game over. So even though I'm not really missing it, so it's still game over. So but at least it's giving us this alert, so we are in the right track. Okay, so here needed for cron to end game. Okay, letting the pad hit the ball. The last thing to do in this lesson is to create some kind of collision detection between the ball and the paddle, so it can bounce off it and get back into the play area. The easiest thing to do is to check whether the center of the ball is between the left and right edges of the paddle. Update the last bit of code you modify again to the following. So again, we are just dealing with the variables y and dy, and we're gonna update it. So we're gonna update it from line 46 to line 52. So let's see what we're gonna update. So if y and dy is less than ball radius, then we're gonna have dy set to the negative dy. That's fine. Else if, then we're gonna have the y plus dy is gonna be greater than the canvas dot height minus the ball radius. Then we're gonna, okay, ball radius, instead of issuing the alert, let me see, else if. Okay, so else if. Okay, so we are gonna have and then we're gonna have inside of the curly braces, we're gonna have in this else. Okay, so what we are gonna do is pretty much inside of this curly braces we're gonna pass in an if statement. So we're gonna go right here, and let me see, let's just move it again. Okay, and I'm gonna go pretty much right here, and let me see, I can just go here. So we're gonna have the if statement. So we're gonna have in the, okay, if x is greater than, so we are having the variable x now. If the variable x is greater than the paddle x, and now we're going to use the double ampersand. So end, so this is the logical end, and x is less than, so let's make, okay, is less than the paddle dot x, okay, plus the paddle dot width, so the paddle dot height width. Okay, if that is true, Then we are gonna open curly braces, and we're gonna have let me see, ball radius, else if, okay, so I have it already here. We're gonna set it if else. No, I already had it here, so yeah, I messed up that one. You know what, this is the second one, so it's gonna end here, and let's just pretty much, yeah, let's just delete this whole thing, and let's just pretty much copy this code and paste it right here. Okay, so let me see, that's fine. Okay, so we have the if statement declaration, and we have the two variables y and dy that has to be less than the ball radius. We open the curly braces, and we're gonna have that if that is true. If the sum of the variables y and dy is less than the ball radius, then the variable dy is gonna be set to the negative dy. Okay, so we have that. Let me see if this is changing a little bit. Okay, so it's changing. Let me see now. Okay, so as long as I don't hit the, oops, okay, I let it hit, so now it's game over. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so if that is true, we're gonna set dy to negative dy. Then we're gonna have the else if, and the else if statement, we have that the sum of the variables y and dy, if is greater than the canvas dot height minus the ball radius, we are gonna have another if statement that is gonna be, we're gonna have another if statement declaration, and inside of that we're gonna have the condition that if x is greater than the parallel x and x is less than the parallel x plus the parallel width, then we're gonna have that the variable dy is gonna be set to the negative dy. Okay, and then we close that, and finally we have the else, and we have the alert game over, and then document that location, that reload, and then clear interval, and then we pass in this constant declaration interval. So we are good up to this point. Okay, so if the ball hits the bottom edge of the canvas, we need to check whether it hits the paddle. If so, then it bounces off just like you expected. If not, then the game is over as before. So you can compare your code. Here is the code here. You can check out in this website, or you can pretty much go into the GitHub repository. But yeah, so this is pretty much all that we have for this game. So here we lost, game over. Let's play it again. Let me see if I can. Okay, so I'm playing it right now, so everything is cool, and I lose. Okay, so I'm moving from left to right. Okay, oops, I lost. So yeah, this is pretty much all that we have for the game over, game development.